Ok. Și eu să încep să-i dau drumul, da?
Ai început live-ul?
Cum încerc? Acum îmi cere descrierea.
Otilia, deci în engleză va decurge
Da.
totul. Ok.
Da.
Întrebările în engleză.
Ok. Acum intrăm, da? Apăs butonul.
Yep.
Ok. Bun.
Okay, it's on Romanian, so please.
Ok. Și eu l-am pus pe grup. Așa. Și vrem să dăm drumul și la recording. Tu începi să admiți lumea, Bogdan? Da. Ok.
So we should just let everyone who's coming in know that we will start in just a minute or two.
Ok. Ok, deci Bogdan, ok, încep, am să spun lumei să închidă video, da?
Dacă vrei.
La început și apoi pentru discuții. Da. Deci vă rugăm să închideți video-ul și microfonul. Și vom avea loc pentru întrebări la sfârșit. Atunci vă vom ruga să puneți video înapoi.
Bună!
Ok, bună, Ileana. Okay, so we are on speaker view. It's 10, we can wait a few more minutes. Okay, so good morning, everyone. We will start the recording in a few minutes. I will ask you to mute yourselves and close your videos for the first part. And then when we have questions from the audience, I would like you to come back in with your video and microphone. Okay. Okay, Bogdan, ai început tu recording, nu? Ok. Okay, should we start? Okay, good. Good morning, everyone. I am Otilia Baraboy. I am the co-founder and executive director of the American Romanian Cultural Society based in Seattle, but we have virtual events with our partners in Washington, D.C. today. And I'm happy that Bogdan Banu from Romanians of D.C. is here, and he will tell us a little bit more about his organization. I'm thrilled to have this wonderful celebration dedicated to Earth Day with our special guests, Luminita, Cuna, and Ioana Cozmuta. Before I introduce them to you, I would like to say a few words about the American Romanian Culture Society. We are a nonprofit founded in 2013. Our signature event is the Romanian Film Festival in Seattle that went virtual last year due to the pandemic, but it was the silver lining of, like you all know, of the last year. We had 50% of our audience was from all over the US. Another signature program is the Romanian Heritage School that we founded in 2016. And we are happy to have students from all over the US again, due to the virtual format. We have a few students enrolled in our programs today here as well. One of our classes is dedicated to Romanian explorers. And we did study Luminita, Cuna, and Ioana Cozmuta present here today. And our students will write about their wonderful career and drive to explore the world as Romanians through the eyes of their Romanian heritage and background. So we're very happy to have here a wide variety of participants from our high schoolers to members of our community. And Bogdan, I will let you say a few words about Romanians of DC.
Thank you so much, Otilia, for inviting us to be a co-host of this event. Romanians of DC, it's a community organization. We are based, as the name sort of indicates, in the greater Washington, DC area. We were founded in 2017, but we sort of inherited the work that was done by a previous organization, ASTROM, the Association of Students and Young Professionals from Romania, who was active since 2000. And we do a lot of community events here in the DC area. We have also, just as one of the things that we have done recently, launched the first community directory in the DC area, covering a lot of the Romanian-owned businesses, a lot of the other organizations that are here, churches, as a way to enhance the community and really give people a chance to interact more with one another. We also do a lot of events. Our signature event, and one of them, it's the International Day of the Universal Day of the Romanian Blouse, which we have celebrated here since 2013, and it was here in Washington, D.C., where we had actually the first official recognition by the mayor of D.C., who declared June 24th as the Day of the Romanian Blouse in the nation's capital. And we also celebrate every year with very large gatherings of Romanians in front of the White House and in front of the US Congress. We also been celebrated for over 20 years, Mărțișor, and we found that this is a really great event to talk about Romanian culture more broadly to our American friends, but also to introduce new generations of Romanians to Romanian traditions. And with that, we're looking very much forward to hearing from Luminita and from Ioana to what sounds like will be a very interesting and exciting discussion.
Thank you, Bogdan. Thank you for being such a wonderful community partner on the East Coast. I will start by introducing Luminita, Cuna. I really like the fact that our guest today represents a microscopic view, on the planet, with Luminita's explorations of the Amazonian jungle, and a telescopic view, from outer space with Ioana Cozmuta's career and research. So I'll start with the microscopic view with Luminita's endeavors to protect the planet. She's a Cluj-Napoca native and Brooklyn resident who has been traveling extensively to the Amazonian region and has been living and working with indigenous communities in the Amazon since 2006. She has been an ally to indigenous peoples for more than 15 years, supporting their efforts to uphold their human rights and protect their territory. Luminita is the founder of Maloca, a grassroots support organization that works with indigenous communities living in the Amazon basin. She has been fundraising and campaigning on various indigenous issues, helping indigenous communities get solar energy, incorporate technology in their territory defense, and become aware of their rights and how to use them to protect their forest. She's also the author of Barefoot in the Amazon, and I have the Romanian edition here. and also co-produced the documentary Ome, Tales from a Vanishing Homeland, winner of the 2017 Queen's International Film Festival for Best Cinematography. The documentary brings forward the fight of an Amazonian community to protect their home, one of their most biodiverse areas in the world. When she's not tracking in the Amazon, Luminita is an IT project manager. I will let Luminita say a few more words about her after I introduce Ioana. Dr. Ioana Cozmuta is the founder and CEO of G-Space, a woman-owned B Corporation for social and a reflection of Ioana's passions to discover and build opportunities for socioeconomic benefit at the confluence of space and earth, and to mentor and inspire the new generation toward more prosperous future for humanity. Ioana holds a PhD in applied physics from the University of Groningen in Netherlands, and she's an alumnus of the Caltech at Stanford University. During her career at NASA and in the industry spanning over 2 decades, Ioana has built a legacy of transforming the status quo, opening new avenues for innovation, collaboration, space technology commercialization, and private partnerships. You can find her talk on about future, being a future spoiler that I introduced. I also send you by email if you are if you subscribe to our newsletter. So you can find her talks on TEDx. She's a keynote speaker and lecturer, and she co-authored over 200 scientific articles, technical reports, and newspaper interviews, webinars, and podcasts. Wow, that's an impressive work, and I'm sure there will be more. Welcome, Luminita. Welcome, Ioana. Is there anything that I missed in my presentation? Is there anything in your short bio, that you would like to that you would like to add to kind of bring more color to what I just said?
Otilia, I think that you covered everything in terms of a short presentation, and I think we're going to get the chance to talk about more about the Amazon in our discussion. So nothing from me.
Mm-hmm. Ioana, is there anything you want to add that I might have missed?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to the dialogue. Thank you for such a warm-hearted introduction.
Thank you. And I have a question for you both, and you can, answer as you feel inspired, no particular order. Looking back at your careers and personal lives, what elements and episodes linked to your Romanian background might have influenced your careers and personal choices later in life as innovators, explorers, and activists?
I can go first if
Sure.
Ioana is okay. I was always a very curious person, and since I remember, I had a curiosity to discover nature and an affinity for the natural world, for animals, for forests, and I grew up when there is still the communist regime in Romania. So the information that was coming in the country, it was pretty limited. However, I was fueling my and satisfying my curiosity with books. And my father started reading to me Jules Verne books since I was 5 years old, and I was fascinating about this Jules Verne's world of unknown corners of the planet. And also when we had the illegal satellite dish that everybody used to have in late 80s, we're getting Sky Network, and on Sky Television I saw the film The Mission, which is about the contact of the Portuguese with the Guarani indigenous peoples in Brazil. And that was a a movie that really impressed me. And whenever I was listening to my father reading these books and watching the movie, I always imagine myself in the Amazon rainforest.
So you have been dreaming for quite a while before it happened about the Amazon.
Yes, and it's worth mentioning that back then I knew that we lived in behind the Iron Curtain, which means that travel was basically impossible. But I was always dreaming to go and explore the Amazon. And when I was lucky enough in late 90s to get a scholarship, a full scholarship here at the university in the States, I found myself all of a sudden much closer to my dream. And after I finished college, I moved to New York. And when I started my first job, I started saving for my big adventure. And this is how it all started. But it was all fueled by everything, by the books and the movies that I saw in Romania.
Thank you, Luminita. What about you, Ioana? What fueled your passion and career later on?
So I guess I will build on what Luminita said, and I think we all, our generation shares that common sense of living in a bubble during communism, right? You call it behind the Iron Curtain. I call it living in a bubble because our universe at that time was very much limited to, maybe our city. It was hard to even travel across the country, right? As we all remember. But I think that fueled not only our curiosity, but our dreams and imagination. And I very often remember, interestingly enough, both Luminita and I seem to have very strong father figures. I remember my conversations with my father about the universe. And it literally, the stories that he would tell me, or the stories that we would discuss about the stars and how the universe was formed. It transformed my room into a spacecraft or spaceship. And I actually never thought I was gonna work for NASA or at NASA or in a commercial space for that matter. It really happened because when I was a postdoc at Stanford, I started to work on a project that was design. I was in the genomics technology center. I was pretty much set on following an academic career. And I worked on this project designing a solid state nanopore for DNA sequencing that would underlie personalized medicine. But the application on the NASA side was to send that miniaturized chip on a planetary mission to see if there's life-like matter on other planets. And that was for me like, wow, who would think of that application? And then, I moved to NASA, and then I spent, over 15 years working on, from technology side to missions, and then to International Space Station commercialization. But going back, so that's, that's the origin of it, and how, the bubble broke, and this amazing universe just, came in like a tsunami. And I guess I embraced it because of this curiosity and imagination that was fueled during those conditions. But the other thing that I wanted to highlight here, that I absolutely think connects to my Romanian heritage, is the fact that, and I can only realize that looking back in time. I'm originally from Baia Mare, and I went to a German immersion school. Half of my family was mixed with Hungarians, and I appreciate that extraordinary diverse background because it opened up to cultural diversity, different languages. They were part of my environment. And I think that was a fantastic heritage, that it was just part of the environment at that time. I didn't realize it, but the fact that we had people talking different languages, people connecting, within that bubble, we realized that there was something beyond, right? And also not just cultural, but also religious diversity, because, some of them were Catholics, some of them, they were talking about different rituals, different kinds of beliefs, different sets of beliefs. So it really provided that fertile ground for adoption and appreciation of diversity.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for your answers. Luminita, how was your book, the Romanian, you wrote it in Romanian. I hope there will be a translation. Maybe you have plans about it and you can tell us more about it. So Barefoot in the Amazon, Desculță în Amazon, was published in 2018 in Romania. And I'm just wondering, how was it received? Was there a lot of interest and awareness of what's going on in the Amazon, the fact that what's happening in a small village in the forest that we call the lungs of the earth affects us all over the planet?
I was very happy that the book was received by the public with a lot of interest and curiosity. Of course, my circle knew about, my circle of friends and family knew about my trips, and actually they were very encouraging while I was writing the book, and actually they planted this idea that, oh, you should write a book about all these amazing experiences that you had. But I launched the book in 3 cities in Romania, and I was impressed how many people came and the questions they were asking about the book, because it shows that they were really interested in what's happening, concerned, and willing to find out more. And one funny thing that happened is I focused so many years on the Amazon, and then when I was going back home, I was looking at the news, reading what was going on, and I saw that I saw that similar things are happening in Romania with the deforestation that's going on there, which has been quite a lot, especially in the last few years. And these people engage me in conversations. What can we learn from the Amazon? What's going on in the Amazon, and how, and drawing parallel with what was happening in Romania with Romania's forests. And regarding the translations, I actually wrote the book half in English, half in Romanian. And in the end, I decided to write it in Romanian because I'm Romanian, and I wanted to be a Romanian telling the Romanian public about my experience in the Amazon, because there are so many cultural references that if I write it for the public here, then it's more difficult to write it as a Romanian for the American public. And also it was a reconnection with my language, with Romanian, because I left Romania when I was 18, and since then I studied in English, and it was a reconnection and rekindling of my relationship with the language. And the publisher, it's actually, I have a contract and with Editura Paralela 45, and they if they want to translate it, it would be up to them.
I see. There are a lot of references, as you say, to Romanian culture, and it's amazing to see that our cultures, we come from a small nation, right, in Europe, and we didn't have the means, right, to the socioeconomics, means actually to explore the earth. And now seeing, you in the Amazon and looking through this world with making Romanian references, you dance the hora with with the people, you know, that hosted you. You were talking about the Ioana being like the Vlad Țepeș of the Amazonia, and you know, all these references that only a Romanian could understand. So that's why I was thinking if you are envisioning a translation, or what will happen with these references, specific Romanian references in the translation, if you would keep them, or
But they would have to be translated as well. And I know a few people commented that in some dialogues I put a lot of no, which is specific to Transylvania and to Cluj, because it's a person from Transylvania that's writing the book, and I wanted that to be in the dialogue. I wanted this theme.
Wonderful. And now I have a question for Ioana. You talked in your TED Talk about being a future spoiler and envisioning, first of all, what is that, if you can tell us what it is, and also envisioning the future through kindness. So you think you have the hope that we can think of a future that is not dark, we're not going to disappear, but we are going to make the most of our resources and technologically and what the earth has to give us. So can you tell us more about it, Ioana? What is a future spoiler, and what do you mean by being kind when we envision the future?
Sure. So the future spoiler was more of a name coined by the Bucharest TEDx team, and I kind of struggled with it myself when I was invited to talk there. I guess future spoiler is someone who is anchored in the present and collects informations and signals on what is forming today in order to then make a prediction of where the future is going, how the future will unfold, and what are actually the possible futures that could unfold. Do I have a hope to have a positive future unfolding? Absolutely, I have a hope. Is that a reality that's going to happen? That's really a big question that requires work at the global level, at the global team. And it's very interesting. I kept thinking, you know, after you, Ottilia, sent us the questions, right? The fact that Luminita works a lot with the civil society, and you know, space traditionally has been done by the government for the government. And there is a coldness and a military touch that people normally associate with space and space exploration. Plus, it's heavily reliant on technology, the image or the branding that's been associated to space traditionally has been, you know, launch system, rockets. They're kind of cold and you know, uninviting. I mean, who wants to ride on a rocket like that into space, right? I mean, you kind of have to be to belong to the people who are a little bit more on the crazy side, right? But there's a beauty to it beyond that, and I really think there is a connecting point that we see right now between, you know, like you said, with Luminita on the microscale and the telescopic, right? The two extremes of the spectrum. And this is what I like to call the lens of space, and I like to talk about it because we see these two worlds collide. The traditional space community, which again, it was a bubble in a bubble, yet another bubble in a bubble. And, you know, with the large problems that we see today facing across the globe, and that don't necessarily depict a very pink or very positive future. And I think there's one of the questions that people often ask, well, we have so many problems here on Earth, why should we go to space? And to me, that's not even a question. and the answer to that is more of a philosophical core. We are now at a ideological unlock. We're experiencing an ideological unlock between a sustainable future, right, where we preserve resources that belong to Earth and to human race. We really have a huge privilege, and it is absolutely every individual responsibility to raise above the little things in life and to get that perspective through the lens of space. So we're seeing this ideological unlock between, like I said, a sustainable future where we really don't think that there's gonna be resources for everybody. And not only that, there's not gonna be resources for everybody, but we're gonna deplete our home planet, which is such a unique place amongst the stars. So that and economic growth, because we do need economic growth, and more than economic growth, we need distribution of wealth across the globe so that we can prevent serious conflict and serious gradients in terms of development. And so, of course, if you think of Earth as a closed system, you cannot liberate yourself from this ideological unlock. But if you really think and you connect to the reality of it, and I'm gonna resort here to physics, Earth is not a closed system. Earth belongs to the solar system and to a universe that's abundant in resources. So we need to make a mental shift from thinking resource scarcity into resource abundance. And space offers the opportunity to expand into the solar system and tap into those resources so that we can achieve both a sustainable future, a sustainable growth, care for our home planet, and economic development and economic wealth distribution at a global scale.
Thank you, Ioana. Wonderful. Yes, Luminita, go ahead.
I really wanted to build on what Ioana said so beautifully. I want to focus on the kindness in envisioning the future of our planet, because in all the indigenous communities that I have been, kindness is the right word to describe of how they are treating their home, their part of the planet. And this is why the places where indigenous people live, which are mostly reserved right now, are one of the most biodiverse places on Earth and the best preserved. And this is because these people, even we tend, when we don't know too much about them, we tend to look at them as being backwards or less civilized. When I went there and I saw how they're taking care of their forest, of their animals, it really made me think, who is less civilized, them or us? Because they're also looking at us. We are for them people that just come and take everything they have. We take their trees, we take their fruits, we take their animals, we take their territory, which is important for their survival. And this is so we are very extractionist, and they're very preservationist. They're treating the nature with kindness, and no, we're not. And there is a lot of, in terms of sustainability and achieving a sustainable future, that Ioana was talking about in the forums, in the international forums that I've been involved in the past few years. There is a lot of talk of bringing to the table indigenous peoples and their traditional knowledge, and bringing it together with scientific knowledge, because it's time for us to stop thinking that their traditional knowledge and the scientific knowledge are two things that are contradictory. They actually can complement each other, and we need both in order to leave a better planet for our future generations.
Thank you, Luminita. Can you tell us more about the documentary?
Can I share one point, because I think
Yes, sure.
it will connect with Luminita's here. So, you know, Luminita was talking about this extractionist versus protectionist, and I think that's very interesting. I want to make this parallel because the event is about Earth Day, right? And the lens of space, the perspective that we see from space, we need to kind of extrapolate. When you have a human body in space, it needs to survive, right? What are the needs? They're air, food, water, pressure, radiator protection. We need to create all those technologies to maintain the comfort of a human body, you know, in the unfriendly environment of space. Well, so if you look to the right, our planet Earth gives us all that for granted, right? There's a network of molecules that provide support for human life, right? And we call those ecosystems, right? There's a suite of ecosystem services, and the United Nations ran a study in 2005, a Millennium Ecosystem Assessment. The four major ones are supporting, cultural, provisioning, and regulating, right? And each of them, they have subsystems. And so their conclusion at that time, again in 2005, was out of the 24 ecosystem services, 17 were under severe degradation. And I guess Luminita is talking more about the culture and the supporting side of things, right? So can we soften our perspective? Can we reconnect to our planet Earth, whether it is through culture, whether it is through the lens of space, but ultimately it is about the core of our humanity, and how that humanity then connects us to to this unique planet Earth. Luminita, I'll switch over to you because I'm sure you can pick it up from here.
No, that was a perfect continuation. Yes.
And I think this brings us to the documentary that you co-produced, Luminita. Can you tell us more about OME and about the local fight in the Amazonians that you supported through your activism?
Absolutely. So after several trips to the Amazon, I used to go several times to the same community, and this is how I started building a relationship, a trust relationship, because the first time you go in any indigenous communities, they will see you, if they're used to outsiders, they will see you as a visitor, that you come and go and they never see you, and they just show you a little bit of their surrounding forest, they give you a glimpse in their life, and that's it. But the more I stay there, and the more the indigenous peoples developed a trust in me, they started sharing their real problems and their real worries about their life, their forest, their future. And they started asking me things. Oh, can you help us with defending our territory? Each day we run into illegal loggers camp in our forest, for example, and the local police or the local military, they don't want to do anything about it. They just dismiss their complaints. And so indigenous people started asking me for help, and also almost every time that I visited a community, I was told that, oh, please go out there in your world and tell your people about our lives here in the rainforest, because they know right now that they are very isolated and they're very far away, and they want people to know about them. They want people to know about their culture, their forest, their way of life, because already they're worried that this way of life is in danger, because their forest is in danger, and without forest, these people cannot exist. So I was at the point where I was really trying to figure out how to make the voice of these communities that I became so close to. I wanted to give them a voice in our world, and it's at that time that I met Raul, the director of the documentary, and he wanted to make social documentary about the Amazon, because he had taken a trip couple of years before we met in a um, somewhere pretty close to where I've been going, and we met and we had the same goal. I basically became his fixer in this community that I've been going to, in the Waorani community. They live in the Ecuadorian Amazon, in an area known as Yasuni, which is the most biodiverse place on Earth. And I really made a case for Raul that if he wants to make a documentary about the Amazon, the Waorani and the Yasuni are a great story to tell. So because Raul went in the community recommended by me, he didn't have to go through the vetting that any outsider usually goes, and he went there as a friend, and he gained access much faster to their inner life and behind the closed doors, to say. And Raul wanted to have this documentary about more focused on the ethnic side, just presenting the lives of the Waorani, which this community was pretty amazing. They're still hunting with blowguns and spears, and they keep traditions that are ancestral. They have a very old shaman that gets visions from the spirit of the jaguar that tells him messages that really work. And I talk about a couple of these experiences in my book. So, but while Raul was filming, having in mind this ethnic point of view to the documentary, the Waorani started telling him, "Oh, we want you to tell in your documentary. We want you to tell about our land and about how our forest is being destroyed, and let us take you here where there are some oil companies, or here where there was a recent spill in the rainforest, and here where there are illegal loggers." And so they pretty much, in a very smart way, they hijacked Raul's topic, and Raul went along with it, and he basically gave the Waorani their voice, and he said, and instead of being a more ethnological look into the life of the Waorani, is more an social justice and activist look at their struggle to preserve their territory. And it's a very Raul makes an amazing job presenting the beauty of the life of these people in their community. Hunting, for example, just to give you an example, they're hunting tapir, which is a huge and very tasty mammal, which because of the deforestation has been seen by the Waorani less and less. So they understood that there are less tapirs living in the rainforest. So they are hunting only one per year. So they reduce their intake of the animals and plants that they are noticing that are disappearing. So Raul is presenting their amazing life, and then immediately he hits you with images of destruction, or images of communities that live close to the roads built by oil companies, and these communities have been corrupted by the world outside. And you see how they live instead of living in traditional houses made out of the materials that you find in the rainforest. They live in really squalid cement houses, and they want Coca-Cola. They don't eat tapirs, they eat bread. So it's this contrast that is really heartbreaking. And I think he made a good point.
Yes, and you can see the film. I put the link in the chat, so it's available online. And also, if you want to support Luminita's nonprofit Maloka, you can go on their website and look at their activity and make a small donation as much as you can. It's important, and it's very eye-opening when I read the book, like how much, like a little, like even $5 makes a huge difference in these communities. So anything that you can donate, please do, and keep this in mind. And talking about resources and the devastating impact that oil companies have on the Amazonian jungle, and I do recommend the film. It's only 30 minutes. Please take the time to see it. It will be an eye-opener. I have a question for you, Ioana. Since your research and work focus on the ways in which we can bring to Earth and commercialize new technologies developed out of space and sources of energy that would not be that harmful for our planet, can you tell us a bit more about it, and how long will it take for us to be able to use these technologies and energies like the void, or the cold, to replace harmful sources of energy like oil, for instance?
Sure. So I will switch gears indeed and try to talk a little bit about what we call space manufacturing and building infrastructures in outer space, in particular in the space between Earth and Moon, which we call the cislunar space. So it's very interesting how my trajectory brought me to this, and it has become a real passion of mine. Not only it has become a real passion of mine because of the amazing physics that you can discover when you remove the gravitational force and build new materials, completely new materials that otherwise are inaccessible in a terrestrial environment, right at the bottom of the gravity well where we live, but also the connection with, like I said before, the big issues of pollution that we see currently around the world, and the destruction of biodiversity and the destruction of natural biological traits in the environment that are fundamental to the support of human life, right? Like you said, like Luminita said, right? Forests, things that we can't make, no matter what technology we find, or maybe we could, but I mean, to build a forest in space would be quite hard to imagine that it would provide the same, it would be the same as we can experience it here on planet Earth. So it would make absolute sense to preserve what we have here in its most pure and native way, while we move polluting manufacturing and not the polluting side of things into space, like space manufacturing. This is what this is why I left NASA, and actually I'm building this company, G Space. So the idea there is twofold. One, by removing the gravitational force, we can manufacture materials with improved performance, not improved performance, but superior performance of what we can make terrestrially. But the whole manufacturing process does not need necessarily to rely on Earth resources. So for example, energy is a huge drainer in manufacturing, right? It's a huge consumption. You can tap into directly space solar power, and we actually have those technologies developed. So you could imagine that factories that currently have a huge carbon footprint terrestrially, right? And again, they replace a forest, they replace a park, whatever, and they use they heavily use water, right? These are three natural resources. So you can reduce the form factor of these factories because now you don't have to expand them in a two-dimensional space. You can put them in a three-dimensional space and utilize them, utilize that space in a much more meaningful manner. So you can reduce the size of that factory, optimize the manufacturing process, and get, you know, the output of it in a much more effective way. Usually it's very interesting. So I'll connect to an example. In the 90s, NASA deployed behind the space shuttle what we call the wind chill facility. This is a 1 meter diameter wind chill, where in the wake of that, you created ultra high vacuum that was unmatched on Earth at that time. And in that vacuum, they used the atomic oxygen that exists in the lower Earth orbit to use it as epitaxial growth and to grow wafers. And wafers are extremely important for integrated circuits. Every single one of us has an integrated circuit in their pockets because of our phones, right? In fact, the production, if we only talk about a production of integrated circuits in the world right now, is in the billions. And every single integrated circuit requires over 10,000 liters of water for cooling when manufactured. And that's water that is not returned as a pristine resource. So combining the fact that you can use the cold of space that doesn't require the use of water, the space solar power, right, and the absence of gravity, we can actually move a lot of this manufacturing into space. And this is something that's happening right now. In fact, we are manufacturing. One example is fiber optics. There's about 7 companies right now that are in the early stages of manufacturing fiber optics on the International Space Station, but also moving that outside onto orbital free flyers.
Wow, thank you, Ioana. How fascinating. And I do have more questions, but I'm going to stop here because I would like, maybe Bogdan has a question, and then we'll open up the floor for the audience. Please feel free to type in your questions in the chat or address them. Put your video on if you feel comfortable. We are being recorded. Yeah, so thank you so much for this wonderful discussion, and I'm looking forward to what the others have to ask.
Thank you, Attilia. Certainly, I have a lot of questions too, but I don't want to monopolize them. And I know there are a lot of people eager to ask the question. Certainly, the Amazon, it's in the news these days. Today, SpaceX landed the first private manned vehicle to the international space. So there's a lot of things to very relevant to the conversation, in particular to the guest that we have with us today. But my question is sort of coming back to the topic where we're talking about Romanian explorers, because you guys are this, and you both talked about your own experiences, and I share that with you, where you grew up in the communist or in the bubble, if you to use Ioana's term. It was books that opened up the world to us, and we didn't have those role models, or if we did, those role models were role models that the communist government didn't really necessarily want to talk about it, because it meant opening up your mind and exploring places in the world that maybe were not accessible to us. So I'm curious to know, who were your own role models as explorers, and how do you see your role right now? Because both of you, for better or worse, now you're public figures, either to your TEDx talks or to your books and your videos. How do you see your role as a role model to those aspiring Romanian Americans who may wish to become explorers in whatever their field they might be?
Luminita, do you want to go first?
Let me unmute. Who was my role model? I didn't have a person as a role model. I met various people through my life, and I picked characteristics from each one of them. But one person that I found fascinating for when I was young was, for example, Jacques Cousteau, who probably we know that he was a great explorer of the oceans, and he took Calypso, and he took a couple of trips in the Amazon as well. And a few years ago, I met his granddaughter, who is Celine Cousteau, who is a great defender of the Amazon, and she's involved more in Brazil in this fight of helping indigenous peoples and preserving the Amazon. And I was when I met her, both my Amazon passion and my childhood me, the child in Romania, who was an admirer of Jacques Cousteau, met. And it was, when I was watching Jacques Cousteau's documentaries, I never imagined that I would meet his granddaughter and that we would actually work together to protect the Amazon and the indigenous peoples there. And then, if I may, one thing that I want to the younger generations to know is that if you're passionate about something, it doesn't have to be the Amazon or the outer space. No matter what your passion is, follow it. It may not be an easy road, but if you have perseverance and if you have drive, then you can reach your passions. And it doesn't have to be a clear-cut road, because I always give myself as an example. I started off in Romania. I took a career in IT, but despite working in IT, I could satisfy and I could work on my passion for the Amazon. And not even that, I also wrote a book. So IT, Amazon, writing, they seem very divergent things, but actually I was able to combine all of them. So for the young audience, keep this in mind. You don't, if you're an IT or if you're going to become a professor, a doctor, you can do so many. You can still combine your profession and do your passion. And
yeah, so I'll emphasize less, role model. It's not like I didn't have role models, but what I want to talk here about is more the lack of role models that don't disappoint you over time. And without absolutely, I mean, I'll preface this without being political. I grew up as a, pioneer, right? So I think up to when I was 12 years old, when Ceausescu and his wife visited first Baia Mare, I was absolutely in love with our leaders, right? I mean, we got that into our brain, right? We were soaked into that environment. And I absolutely believe that those people represented, some very special human beings that, were extraordinary in terms of intelligence and heart and soul and so on. And completely, that crashed completely. And so to me, it's like, wow, I don't want to experience that again. And so I actually fundamentally, one of the things that I learned from the crash of the communism, the crash of believing in a leader, right, is I question every single leader around the world. I don't blindly believe, whether it is the priest at church or the leader of the United States or other leaders that emerge out there. I fundamentally question that all the time, and I see, do their words align with what they do, with what they say? When you meet them in person, do they exhibit that humbleness? Do they exhibit that they really care about what matters? Are they adopting and embracing of humanity? And so to me right now, a role model is the New Zealand Prime Minister. She's she's an extraordinary woman. She's very simple, she's very human, she's very humble, right? Is not oh, I'm arrogant, I'm on the top of a pyramid and I'm going to tell you from here what to do because, you know, I'll tell you one thing, but I'll do another thing behind it. I think that's fundamentally comes from my Romanian heritage, living and growing under communism. And the second point I wanted to make here is I was looking for mentors. I was looking for mentors to support me, especially woman mentors. And I have a lot of male mentors that were supportive and encouraging growth over time. However, you know, I could not find a woman mentor in my entire career. And maybe it's my fault too, or maybe there were just circumstances. So one thing that I've learned is that at some point in your life, you need to stop saying, I just want, you know, to advance my career. I want to stop and start passing the baton to the next generation. And that's so important. And I feel like we lack that kind of mentorship and support, because in the end, it breaks the fundamentals of life. It breaks the fundamental of how God, and I'm really talking about the spiritual God here, God created the universe, right? And that includes the physics of it and the chemistry of it and all the spiritual connection, right? We really need to build a generation on another, and we really need to build on this, but bring that kindness and awareness into it. And I know, Ortilia, you wanted to talk about this overview effect, or you know, the going beyond, right? Why are we here? What are we gonna do with our little tiny lives in the immensity of the universe? And can you really embrace that? And can you really be daring to say, I want to make a difference and I want to stand by my values?
Well, thank you both. Thank you, Ioana, for wrapping up what you know, the questions that we had, and thank you, Luminita. We do. If there's anybody in the audience on Zoom who would like to address a question, please do so. Unmute yourselves. You know, put your video on if you feel comfortable.
There are a few questions in the chat.
And there's yeah. Ilana Marin, the
I will have
co-founder of
comment.
ARTS. Yeah.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for these wonderful presentations and for the work that you have done and continue doing for all of us, actually. You are representatives of two extremely important activities and professions, I would say, that make us go on and do the best and become kinder, if I may so. And I was thinking, listening to you, to 18th century, 17th century, 18th century French philosopher Blaise Pascal, who said, it's a matter of relativism. If I place myself in the center of a circle, then the circumference is so far away. If I take a step and I consider myself in the center of the circle, the circumference will go beyond and I will never reach it. And then if I place myself on the line of the circumference, I cannot see the center wherever I am moving. And so each of you, I would say, succeeded in, and Blaise Pascal was a mathematician too. So, and he was, you know, that kind of plural, multidisciplinary man. Then I thought, here we are. We have both perspective and you combine them. And I think they should and are integrated somehow in our education system. But my question to you is, what exactly you see the younger generation need to do to take care of our planet, and also to look at the planet from outside, but also from the center, from the point of view where they are living right now? And thank you again. I'm grateful to your for your work and for this presentation today.
I would say very simple: travel the world on planet Earth and beyond.
Yes, and I totally agree with Ioana. Travel, it's an eye opener and an amazing educator. And also, I think it's not only what the younger generation needs to do, it's what we can do, because the younger generation needs to be raised and educated at home and at school in the spirit of taking care of our planet. For example, the other day for Earth Day, I saw little kids, maybe 5-6 years old, with their parents and a teacher picking up the garbage in Prospect Park, which is right next door here. And I was thinking, good habits and care for nature start really young, and so education.
Yeah, and I think kind of respect for the resources that you have, and trying to understand where those resources come, right? I think one of the things that we've experienced growing up in Romania, or at least I did, my father took me at my grandparents' farm, and I knew where, you know, eggs and milk and potatoes come from, and how hard and harsh it is to actually provide for, you know, the food that's on the table. So then you start understanding, not just theoretically from school. So I think that's what connects the two, right? It's not about the theory and that, but experience it, right? Go and live in, you know, in a variety of conditions and communities, and exposed to different thinking, different perspectives.
Yes.
I think you're both right. I mean, I think as an educator that we need to allow more of our experiences and inspire students through experiential learning to learn more, because then the learning process becomes emotional. You are engaged. It's not only intellectual or abstract. It's not anymore an equation. It's an equation on which your life depends. And so I would say that that could be an answer. Thank you for because Otilia and myself participated yesterday in a conference about teaching strategies, and we both emphasized experiential learning. And here you are. I think the expansion of that approach will be extremely effective.
Yeah,
Thank you.
as long as that experiential learning does not completely replace the theory. So I think you,
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah,
really
no.
need to find a good balance between the two, right? It's not
Sure.
one against the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. We'll take we have about 3 questions. We'll do that, and then we'll wrap up. We do want to be, as you know, on time. So we have a question for Ioana. I find your idea to move the manufacturing space brilliant. Do you find enough support to expand your company and materialize your ideas?
Yeah, believe it or not, there are many investors, private capital, who invest in space today. In fact, the infusion of private capital into supporting a variety of space company has grown tremendously, particularly over the past decades. And we right now, we actually support our company through a combination of government grants. I think the US government has a fantastic a pool of investments that come from taxpayers' dollars to actually, you know, you write a proposal, and those are heavy completed proposals, but you know, they support innovative ideas. And usually you need to provide a rationale. How does this help the society at large, right? So it's not just for economic, but also for public benefit. So so it's a combination of public and private capital. I'm not saying it's easier, or dollars are hanging all around. You need to fight for them and work hard, but at least there is the awareness and the network of support for it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ioana. And there is a question for everyone. How are the indigenous people, probably for Luminita more, how are the indigenous people affected by COVID-19?
They were affected, unfortunately, and I know better the situation in Brazil. There have including in the communities that I know, there have been quite a lot of death. And unfortunately, a few elders, leaders, have died in the past year, and it was a tremendous loss, because because with indigenous communities, the elders are the keepers of the knowledge of culture, tradition, and also the knowledge about the forest, medicinal plants. And when an elder dies in an indigenous community, it's like a huge, it's like a huge library has burned and disappeared. And they have been, they have been affected because they're just in the Amazon. There are only about 70 groups that are uncontacted, and those have, as far as we know, they have less been affected. But everybody else that has a little bit of contact with the outside world, they had COVID-19 in the community, and it spread like fire because they live in big communal houses, extended families, 25, 30 people. So one person gets it, basically the whole community gets it.
Wow. And thank you, Luminita. And I do have another question for you. Luminita, your dedication to voice the communities in Amazon is very inspiring. How can we get more involved? And I did put the link to Luminita's nonprofit in the chat. I will check your nonprofit organization for sure, but is there something else that you can tell us? How else can we help?
Be informed, travel if you want to be more adventurous. There are several organizations that support indigenous peoples. There are several events on the East Coast and on the West Coast that are meant to present the lives of indigenous peoples. Here in New York, I know the Smithsonian Museum of the Native American has great programs, and depending how you want to get involved, you can message me and we can discuss, and I'll be happy to guide you, whether it's just reading some books or going to an event or going to a community. I can guide you in all these ways.
Wow, thank you so much. We do have somebody who is thanking you for being here. Thank you for bringing these two very accomplished ladies that did and do a great job in representing the Romanian community. I wish them both more interesting moments of discoveries and also come back and share with us. So we cannot stress enough, my colleague Ioana said that, and also Bogdan, the role that you have in our communities as role models for the second generation of Romanian Americans. Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for being explorers, Romanian women explorers, and being the role models that we didn't have actually growing up in communist Romania. So keep it up, and please continue sharing with us and coming to our events, and be kind to our planet, to our villages everywhere in Romania, in the Amazonian jungle, and to the future and the way we take care of our planet, and from the inside within and from outer space. Thank you so much, Bogdan. Thank you, Ioana, for being such a great supporter, and thank you everybody for participating. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I hope that you will go click on those links and continue our discussion in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for organizing, and thanks for being here, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
All the
Thank
best.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bogdan, so I just ended, right?
Yes.
That's it. Okay.
Mulțumim.
It's still recording.
I know. I'll end the recording now.